Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm Riverside again. The water is way up because of all the rain we just got. That was a pretty big storm, but fortunately it hit here at night. It did do some damage in Louisiana, and I think it killed 3 people, so pray for them and their families. But I'm going to go get to my swing right there, and I will work on our Bible study. Well, my talk and then the study. We're still talking about the times. Well, what we're talking about is what's happening. Why are all these things happening? Come on, get there. There we go. I have to lean forward to put it in place, and then I come out here. Nose is running a little bit because of the change in temperature. This is cockeyed. Let me fix this. There we go. All right. When we look around, we can get discouraged easily if we don't think about why it's happening, and we don't think about what we've been told about what's happening. We're dealing with the spiritual realm, not the physical realm. Well, we're seeing things in the physical because they're changing it, they're distorting it. And we're going to talk about who in a bit. But don't let these things discourage you. Find a way to work around them. If public school systems are corrupted and evil, find a way to teach your kids at home. There's lots of material out there on how to do that. People have been doing it for many, many years. I was fortunate enough when I was working and had my 2 young boys that I was able to put them in Christian education, private schools. And the first college my older son went to was a religious school up in North Georgia. He was going to transfer to Tech, and then Tech changed their rules. So he went to Chattahoochee Tech, I think it's called, up in Chattanooga. Anyhow, you can find a way. If you're struggling with how to do it, pray. And then stay quiet. Don't go panicking. Don't go running around like a chicken with your head cut off because you don't know what to do. He can't get to you. You have to sit down and relax and just be at peace and know that God is going to give you a solution. If you're asking for a solution, He will give you one. Now, it depends on the age of the kid. It depends on whatever. Quick story, when we first moved here and my wife did not want to be away from the kids, she found a way. They weren't quite old enough to go into school, but they went into daycare. So she went to work for the daycare that she put the kids in. That was a smart thing. And for a long time, they would get compliments back from the schools that these kids would get accepted to. You know, public schools still, but the teachers would still respond back and say, "These kids know so much, you're teaching them so much." That worked really well until the government got involved. Whenever the government gets involved, it's never going to be for our good. Not in recent times. If the government's involved, run away from it. But they said, okay, here's some money we're going to give you to help you to do all these programs. After the schools accepted the money, I guess they didn't read the fine print or they didn't care. The fine print said the government could tell them what they could do and what they couldn't. They were no longer able to give them coloring books to color in. You could only give them a blank piece of paper and no guidance. They couldn't work on the alphabet. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't teach them. So all those compliments that they got for the years before were gone from then on. They were dumbing down our children, which is what the government wants. The government wants 2 types of people: the upper class, the elites, and the poor serfs down below who will mindlessly do what they're told. Serfdom. We have stories about that, both biblical and, regular. The legend of Robin Hood was about him fighting for the poor because the king was abusing them. Steal from the rich and give to the poor. Well, now the government, under that disguise, is doing that. Only they're stealing from the poor to give to the rich. Modern day change of events. I don't know what I'm hearing over there. They must be doing some construction work. You come out here for peace and quiet, and sometimes you don't get it. I don't mind the birds. Those are part of the surroundings. That's okay. I had to wait until after the garbage truck comes through. He comes through making a lot of racket. So he's been gone now for about 30 minutes. Yeah, I can hear stuff. I think what they're doing is they're logging over there. I think that's what I'm hearing. They've started clearing out some sites coming up to the state park here. I'll be glad when they're done with that. Yeah, that's mechanical. There's no clouds over there for thunder. Last time I was here and I mentioned Satan, he threw some noise into the video right at the transition point where I was filming the water. But it was just, he distorted my voice. If it was him, fine. I'm not afraid of him. As long as I've got Jesus sitting right next to me. Put my arm around him right here. Sorry you can't see him, he's camera shy. But he's right here. I wouldn't go up against Satan or any of his demons or any of the other critters that he's got working for him without Jesus. Okay. My title for this today is America Demon Possessed? And I'm going to probably say yes. Not fully, but we're getting there. The way this works, if you're a Christian, you have the Spirit of God in you, filling that void that we all have naturally. Well, if you reject Jesus, that void is still there. And it's like, come in here, spirits of the world, take me over, is what you're basically saying. You can't live without a spirit in you very well. You're going to be miserable because you need that spirit. The demons can fit that mold. Won't be good for you. Jesus says the only spirit to have in you, we were designed to be connected to God. That's why Jesus came back, to reconnect us to God. But if you don't do it, demons will move in. And there are demons everywhere. You say, why are they everywhere? Satan, for one, is not omnipresent. And omni is a Latin word, like rapture is. So be careful when you pick and choose which words you say are not in the Bible. So, people can be possessed, but so can nations. We've seen this, where nations have come in, like Babylon, and they did the final destruction. The northern tribes were destroyed by other countries, but the southern tribe, which is where the temple was, where they were at one time more holy than the northern tribes at that point in time, they still got destroyed. Jeremiah warned them and they put him in prison. All the prophets basically got punished by the people they were trying to save, with maybe a few exceptions, one of them being Nineveh and Noah. Not Noah, but Jonah. See, I have a hard time with names, and so sometimes a name pops up and it just comes right out before I have a chance to filter it. I know who these people are, but I mess up on that a lot. I catch it 99% of the time. But every once in a while, if I mess up on a name, I'll put it down at the bottom in text and show you where I messed up. Okay, I've got, 2 pages of notes for this. because this is an important subject. Countries can be inhabited by demons, and then there's nothing left to save. Noah is an example. See, I was thinking about him. The world was destroyed. There was no one left worth saving. Now, a lot of it probably had to do with Satan contaminating the human race with the Nephilim and with, combining the DNAs and mixing them up. We don't know how long after that happened that Noah came, but it had to be a few hundred years at least, because it took him at least 100 years to build the ark. But anyhow, Sodom and Gomorrah, again, destroyed. And all the countries that destroyed Israel, like Babylon, they were themselves destroyed. So it's just the way things go. But right now, what we're doing in our country is so demonic. From the top down, the president, being a puppet, is following orders. And I've told you about they want the population reduced. That's why they were for abortion. That's why they're for banning marriages, essentially. And now by making it so that anybody, anywhere, anything can be married to anyone or anything, they've destroyed marriage. They've destroyed everything that God has made whole. God said you can eat animals, even if they're sacrificed to idols, as long as you're not part of the sacrifice. If there's food left over and you want to eat it and there's no one around to be offended by it, that's the key, you can eat food that was offered to idols. You can get that from Peter, his vision. But anyhow, today, of all nations in the world to mock the United States, Russia, Putin is mocking us for all the stupidity that we're doing, and they're enacting laws that are counter to what the United States is doing, which is probably going to be Magog that's going to attack Israel, so they're not necessarily the good guys, but they're mocking us, a country that was founded on religion. Look at the early writings. Don't listen to these naysayers. Don't listen to these leftist liars, these satanic liars. The people on the Mayflower wrote about religion. These were religious people. They left England to get away from the Church of England and from the king. They had amalgamated those two, and they shouldn't be. That's why we say in our Constitution, the government should say nothing for or against religion. The idea of separation of church and state is not in our Constitution. That was in a discussion in letters between Jefferson and Madison when they were figuring out how to write the Constitution. But you don't get that in history, because if you learn that, you would know what they're doing. If you don't learn history, you're doomed to repeat it. And we're going to be repeating the first and second century here very shortly. They're going to be going after Christians. They've already started, but they're not lining up Christians and feeding them to the lions or anything like that yet. But we're told that the harlot will have the blood of Christians on her. And we're going to talk about who the harlot is here in a bit. Okay. So the key to surviving this is, one, don't let it get to you. We have been warned about this in the Bible. A couple of thousand years ago, when they finished writing it roughly, they give us all the things that are coming. John from prison in Patmos wrote the book of Revelation. It's kind of a summary of all the things to come. Matthew talked about it a little bit. We've got, the day's darkening. Well, that's in Revelation. You can find that. They've all talked about it. The Old Testament guys talked about it. Daniel, Ezekiel. Everybody talked about this. Isaiah. The prophets had a little bit to talk about it. Some of it was for the current times, but a lot of it, if not most of it, depending on the prophet, was for the future. Daniel was told to close up what you're writing. Don't write any more. This is for the end times. Well, We're there. I just talked about the last days. There's no doubt that we're there. Okay, so the only way to fight this is to keep the Spirit free in you. Don't grieve, don't quench the Spirit. Do your daily prayers. Now, it says to pray without ceasing, but that doesn't mean to get on your knees and pray without ceasing all day, because you wouldn't accomplish anything. Do your morning prayer, get your day started with Jesus. End it at the end of the day with Jesus. Again, you can do both of those on your knees. Those are quiet times with God. But during the day, talk to God throughout the day. Go, that's a pretty tree, God. Thank you for creating that. Or, what am I supposed to do about this? They're changing this part of my kid's school. What do I do? The answer may be go down there and peaceably protest. Don't fight this physically. You will lose. The people that started, I'm not 100% convinced that there were conservatives or Christians doing these substation attacks, knocking the power out. It could have been the government, and then blaming that on the conservatives and Christians. They lie through their teeth. They don't have any problems about lying. They know they're lying and can do it with a straight face. That is what is the most impressive. Our press secretary can sit there and lie. Someone calls out and says, what about this? He said this. No, he never did. We've got video of him saying it. And just flat out lie. It's almost humorous, and that's what you've got to do with it. You've got to laugh at it. It's not going to change you. It will affect the world. Those that don't have the Spirit of God in them are going to get a demon. Now, demons can still affect Christians. Don't think you're off the hook. They can influence you. They can give you alternate directions to go. They can't indwell you, but they can affect your thought process. Somebody can come up who is operating with a demon and give you an idea that kind of fits in the area that you're thinking about going in, but maybe God wants you to go over here and they're wanting you to go over there. Be careful who you listen to. Take everything with a grain of salt and then pray about it. Demons are here all around us all the time, but they can't touch us as long as we stay next to Jesus and keep that Spirit free in us. If you're sinning, you're tying the hands of the Spirit. That's not good. Stop the sinning. Some things are habitual. Yes, God understands. But still, try. People who have a really bad habit, a habit like, smoking or drugs or whatever, or sin, whatever your habit is, or sex, whatever your habit is, you're going to have to go to God. He's going to have to help you. Now, it may be punishment up front to get your attention, but after that, if you're trying and you step off the path, he's just going to bump you and put you back on the path. He's not going to come after you. What have I got? Another phone call coming in. There we go. At least they don't ring when I'm on the phone when I'm recording. They just pop up a message. Anyhow, I'm thinking about changing my phone number, but I've been doing that for years. I get all these sales calls and all kinds of stuff, and I just ignore them. I block them if I can figure out who it is. Anyhow, okay. So we've got plenty of history of how God punishes nations. Israel, we've got multiple occurrences of them being destroyed. I mean, look at what's over there now. They can dig down through layers of destruction. Multiple layers. And it makes the archaeology a little bit tough because you don't want to destroy this layer that's in the top 3 feet to get to the layer that's 3 feet to 6 feet to get to the layer that's 6 feet to 12 feet. It's like that. You got to be careful. Or you do it bit by bit and categorize everything. It takes longer. There was an archaeologist years ago who was, I don't want to say stupid, but let's just say misguided. He was doing archaeology with dynamite. Yeah, that is so wrong. Anything precious doesn't get removed with dynamite. And I saw some of this, not in the archaeology part, but in the mining part. Somebody was mining turquoise. And to get down to the turquoise, he was taking the top layer off. And if you didn't get the charges down at the right depth and used the right amount of charge, if you used too much, he fractured the turquoise below it. Finally, he gave up using dynamite. It's when you do something stupid and then you do it again, that's when you deserve the label stupid. Now, I'm using these names jokingly. Don't tell people this in public. Don't come up to them and say that was stupid or dumb. Just say, well, I guess you learned something in that, and help them fix the problem and move on. But I joke around too much sometimes. Okay. So, if a country turns their back on God, God says, fine, I'm going to give you exactly what you want. And he'll turn his back on the country. And when he does that, the enemies are welcomed in. Now, nobody can do anything unless God gives them approval. So whoever the bad guys are that are going to come in, they're going to be coming in with, Satan's going to be running them in there. Satan has to get permission. How about this country? Can I use them to attack them? If they deserve to be attacked, God say, go ahead. God may say no, or he may say, fine, but you can only kill 5%. Scatter the rest. You can take some of them as slaves. Satan doesn't do anything without permission from God. But these are for people who've turned their back on God. Even if you're a chosen person, even if you're a Christian, you can still get punished for turning your back on God. Now, in reality, it's the best thing for you. So don't look at it as bad. If you're being punished for something that you've done, take the punishment with a smile on your face once you realize what you've done. Once you've realized that you caused the problem, then put a smile back on your face, because now the punishment you're getting is what's required from God for you for doing that. But every time God did that, he restored him with more. Let's look at Job. He let Satan attack Job, killed his family, took all of his money and possessions. And Job, until the very last second, didn't turn on God. But God pushed him too far. We have a limit. And then God said he would never push anybody that far again. Now, we all have different limits. But God knows them, so don't worry about it. But he restored Job's family, a new family, restored all of his possessions. And the same thing's happened with Israel. He restores them, gives them back pretty much everything they had. It may not be as nice as it was the first time, but they get everything back. The second temple, after the first one was destroyed, when they rebuilt it, wasn't as pretty as the first one. And it got them through until Herod put a nice facelift on it. But Herod did something that you got to realize what happened. He wasn't working with God, he was doing it for himself. He made it look very, very beautiful, very enticing, very envious. But it didn't save them, because they weren't worshiping God properly. And God eventually destroyed that temple. The new one. Yeah, as Christians, we know they don't need one. But as Jews, they don't know that we're right yet. The 2 witnesses and 144,000 are going to convince. However, they're going to get their temple. It's going to unite them. It's better for them to be united about what they think they've got in the way of God, so that then God can then reach out to them. Right now, they're all thinking about all different things. They're not united. It would be hard to reach them all in one setting real easily. Oh, here comes the wind. Let's see if I can get through with this. The wind is picking up. And that's cold. That's cold wind. Looks like it's kind of coming straight across, but there's a slight southerly direction to it, which means it's coming out of the north. Cold wind, yes. Okay. So if God leaves you with no protection, turn back to God. It doesn't matter how far you go away. All you have to do, repent and do an about face, turn around. I'm going to have to pull this closer and put my feet on it because the wind is picking up. Okay, there we go. Now, the U.S. we've been removing God for years. It probably started in the 60s. You know, what was the phrase for the drug people back then? Turn in, turn on, and turn off or something. You know, go get high and just ignore everything. There's nothing in the world worth us paying attention to. Well, they were dealing with things like, you know, Vietnam, and it was a bad time. And the media had learned the power that they had. They got rid of their first president, the media did, in Nixon. He wasn't doing anything that none of the other politicians, especially the ones on the other side, were doing. They were all doing it, but they caught him and could publicly talk about it. And they got rid of him. And they've been doing that ever since. They got rid of Big T. The Bushes were kind of progressive. They were right-leaning, but they were still progressives, and so they put up with them. Okay, so here's what we did in the last 100 years. We took prayer out of the school. We also got rid of the Pledge of Allegiance, too, by the way, both of which I did in school. They allowed them to teach the Bible as a course for a long time, but they finally banned that. Even though there's so much history in it, they banned it. The Ten Commandments were removed from public places. They removed them from courthouses and other public areas. Now the joke about that is you know, you can't have the Ten Commandments in a courthouse. It creates a hostile environment for lawyers and judges. It's sad but true. We are so into idol worship. Look at your commercials. What are they doing? They're trying to sell you cars, brand new cars, when the one you've got may be just fine, but you got to have one that equals to whatever they got over there. And how do they sell them? They get a slick talking guy or a pretty girl to help sell the car. They're appealing to your eyesight. Idol worship. And of course there's idol worship in the church too, all over. We're being mocked as Christians today. Look at what they do on the news. You go onto these news stations and you watch them. There are 3 news people that I want you to look for. Okay, if you don't already know who they are, they're no longer on any national news broadcast because they don't follow the rules as the news executives put out. Glenn Beck is one of them. He created his Blaze TV. Okay? So watch him. He will tell you what's going on. And frankly, he's frightened of the future. Now, he's also a Christian and he talks about that. When I say frightened, I should say concerned. And he talks about that. How far are we going to have to go before we get rescued? That's the only concern that we've got. But don't worry, we're the bride of Christ. We're not going to be left abandoned with stuff coming down on us. All right. John Stossel is another one. He's really good about, giving you the correct view of what's going on. And he has to watch where he's at. He might get banned from where he's at, but he has an email that you can sign up for so that you can still get his stuff if he does get banned. He talks about that. And another one, John Stossel just did a story on Megyn Kelly. And she used to work at Fox, and then Fox is not 100% conservative. They tend to walk the line sometimes. They want ratings more than they want to tell the truth. And sometimes they go after the ratings and they tell them what they can and cannot do. So Megyn Kelly left them, She thought maybe she'd go over to NBC and see if, or MSNBC, whatever it was, and see if she could maybe get a right-leaning, right-of-center voice there to kind of counteract what they were doing. And it didn't last long. They started attacking her. Their own people, their own newscasters started attacking her. So now she's got her own page. And they're both on YouTube right now. I don't know if they have other sites as well. I know that Glenn Beck has Blaze TV on a separate server, so they can't shut him down. I don't think the other ones have done that yet, but they need to. They need to get with Glenn and all form a conservative network. Maybe they'll hear this and they'll do that. Okay. Let's see, where are we at? And this new Defense of Marriage Act. Right there in the term, it is a lie. It is not a defense of marriage. It is it's a despicable act that they did to corrupt marriage the way they have. The new marriage rules that are in place would have been accepted, open arms in Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what it does to us. And they had some religious clauses in there that they threw out. So there's no rebuttal to it. They can walk up to anybody and say, you have to, as a doctor, you have to create a boy out of that girl or whatever they want them to do. And the doctor has to do it or they're breaking the law. Now, I hope that we start seeing doctors breaking the law, but they don't care. Our government doesn't care. If every doctor were to just quit right now, people would be dying, and that's what they want. You can't win this system in an earthly point of view. All we can do is hopefully escape it very soon. For anybody who doesn't think that we've got a rapture coming soon, you're not looking at the news. Okay. Now, there are three main spirits in the world right now. There's lots of them, but main ones that are involved in a lot of the stuff going on. And they've been around for a long time. We're talking about the harlot, the seven heads, and if it does mention the 10 horns, that's the beast riding on the harlot. But they're working together. We don't know who the Antichrist is yet. He's working with the harlot to get this world system set up. But they're in process of doing it right now. Just listen to Charles Schwab. I keep talking about him. And I'm going to continue to mispronounce his name. But there are three main spirits. The first main spirit has to do with the harlot. Who is harlot? In Revelation, mystery, comma, it's not two words, mystery, comma, Babylon the Great, and other names. But basically, Babylon. Babylon's been around since they were dispersed. God didn't kill them. He confused their language so that they were scattered, which is what he told people from Noah's time to do, scatter and populate. And they decided not to, so he confused them. But who's the god of Babel? Baal. You may know it pronounced as Baal, but Baal is the correct pronunciation. The Hebrew pronunciation, anyway. So, and his name is the possessor. That's what they're doing. They're taking over the world. They're going to possess the world. Mr. Schwab said that you're going to own nothing and be happy. Some of the thought about these chips that they're going to implant in people are going to make you more docile, more acceptable about being a slave to this one world government. You're going to have rich people and serfs. That's all you're going to have. Okay, well, Baal is not alone in this. He has his wife, Astora. It's one of her names. She's been around for a long time. One of the more modern names, the Greek name would be Venus. These are the goddesses of sexual immorality. And that's why she's called the harlot. And you just have to look around and see what they're doing, what they're trying to do to kids, what they're trying to do in this world. I mean, Rome fell because of this. Countries fall because of this. Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed because of this. And there's one more third spiritual demon, if you want to call him that. And his name is Molech. And he's known as the destroyer. He's the one that implemented sacrificing babies. So when you look back in time, he's been here working in this country too. This abortion crowd. They've been killing millions of babies. In history, we only have stories of maybe thousands, but the United States has killed millions. And where do they mostly come from? The poor. They don't want the poor to breed. And if they do, they want to kill their babies. This is the evil. These three are the keystones, but they're going to be replaced. We're told in Revelation that the harlot is going to be killed by the beast, by the Antichrist. The harlot, 7 kingdoms make up the harlot territory. We don't know who they are right now, but they're the leaders of all this, and they're in multiple countries. But they're going to be joined by the Antichrist and his 10 countries. And it might be this, some overlap with the Magog War and the countries involved there. We have an interesting world. They are racing as fast as they can to the cliff ahead of us. We're in the back seat, waiting for God to pluck us out, to save us. But they are going to go over the edge. But we'll be out of there. But we don't know when. I can't give you a date. All I can say is, looking at the world, see how fast we've deteriorated. The 30-20 group, in one of their recent meetings, I don't remember which one, said that they're way ahead of schedule. So they wanted to take over the world by that date. And again, I say 30-20 and reverse the numbers. I hope I didn't say it the other way, but you know what I mean. By that date, they wanted to have the whole world under their control, and they're way ahead of schedule. It could be next year that they actually take control. This digital currency is a key, and they're using it right now, bank to bank. They're about ready to turn it on. They might do it this month. It might be springtime. They want to turn it on as soon as they think it's ready. We've never had computing power capable of doing this, of tracking every transaction in the world. We do now. And one more thing just to add to your give this to Jesus, don't worry about it list. Elon Musk has agreed to launch military satellites. His SpaceX satellites would be a version of them for the military. He's going to start launching those. Yeah, that can't come to a good end. Okay, well, I want to read a couple of verses. There is so much in the Bible about what we have coming that I'm not going to talk about all of it because it would take forever and you'd fall asleep. I have to break it up into hundreds of Bible studies. But I'm going to look at James 2:19. And let me get my glasses out. (2:19), here we go. Okay. It just got through talking about faith without works is dead, because this is James and he talks about works. How you got to combine them. You can't have works to get to heaven. But if you've got faith, if you're a Christian, then there should be some works. There may not be works to you if you're having fun doing it, but he's just saying there should be some outcome. But anyhow, we're in James 2:19. You believe that there is one God. Pretty much everybody over there did. Not in Rome, they had multiple gods, but in Israel, and James is a Jew, he's talking to them over there. You believe that there is one God. You do well. But even the demons believe, and they tremble. Satan and the demons are afraid of God. Tell Satan to flee, and he will, in Jesus' name. But you better make sure that it is with the Spirit of Jesus that you, through the Spirit of God, that you do that. You just can't use his name. You have to actually have the Spirit. And now we're going to look at 1 Peter 5:8. Just turn over a book to 1 Peter 5:8. Okay, so here's what I'm telling you. Stay in the Spirit as much as you can. Don't grieve the Spirit. Stay in the Spirit. I hope you can see this. I'm kind of got the sun up my back. Be sober. Be in control of your mind. Be vigilant. Keep on the lookout. Look about circumspectly. We're not to be confused. We're not to be led astray. Pay attention. Because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a lion, like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He would love to kill every Christian on the face of the earth. He's tried multiple times. He's going to try again. But that's where we're going to have the rapture to save us coming up. Resist him. Steadfast in your faith. Don't walk away from your faith. Don't think you've got it. I learned this, God, I can handle it. No. Don't do anything without God. Steadfast in your faith, knowing that the same sufferings are experienced by your brotherhood. We're all going through trials, through temptations. None of us are perfect. We're all sinners. We won't have our sin-free body until we're in heaven. We all have to fight it. Now, the Spirit gives you extra power, but you got to get out of the way. You got to let the Spirit work. Sufferings by your brotherhood in the world, but may the God of grace, who called us to be his eternal glory, and I got to turn the page, by Christ Jesus, after you have suffered a while, perfect, established, strengthened, and settle you. To him be the glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. God will give us the strength to get through whatever we're going through. And now more than ever, we no longer have a supporting world. Back when we had a Christian world, or a Christian country here in the United States, we might find support. But right now, if you mess up and they find out you're a Christian, they're going to give you hell on earth. Don't mess up. Follow. I have a bug on my selfie stick. He looks harmless. He just wants to hear the Word of God. All creatures want to hear the Word of God. All right. That's all I have for now. I'm going to include just a little bit on the zipper that I've got that I'm having problems with. Somebody pointed me to a video on YouTube, and I tried it. It's not perfect, but it's better. So if I can get it, as closed as well as I did, I had it pretty well closed all last night to get through the rain that we had. It was a very big storm. Most of it didn't hit here. Most of it hit north, but we did get a little bit of it late at night. So the only thing I did was lose a little sleep, because it's hard to hear rain hitting hard on the top of a tent, or in my case, a tarp. So I lost a little sleep. So I may take a nap this afternoon after I get this video up, because this is a video I was supposed to make yesterday. I already did all the homework, checked all the verses, got everything ready, and then I couldn't go outside. And I don't, as much as I can film inside, I don't like doing things in there. I cooked a burrito to put out there this morning, so you can see that. It'll come up before you see this video. Didn't take very long. I just wanted something to do. But I have to film it inside my tent because everything outside was still wet. It was still sprinkling. It stopped now, and we have relatively clear skies, as you can see by looking up. but there are still a few clouds. But that means the temperature is going down. So I'm going to have to deal with that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm turning it a little bit so I can see my face to make sure I'm on the screen. I had to put a level on this because sometimes I'd be talking and I'm like this. So I put a level across the video on I can see it, you can't. So now I know I'm pretty level. Okay, got to be level-headed here. I hope Jesus takes care of you. I hope you enjoy your time with him. Don't let the world get you down. It's going to get bad because it's the last attempt. No country was ever destroyed by God who didn't get warnings. And so all the things that are coming are steps. Are you ready yet? Are you ready for me yet? As long as they say no, they're going to get worse. So all these little steps that we see, all the seals, all the trumpets, the bowls, everything, they're nudging people along, making things frightening and scary to get them to come to God. There's going to be a lot of people come to God during these next, well, roughly 7 years. We don't know when they're going to start yet. We don't see the witnesses, and they got to be around for the first half. We don't see the witnesses. The Antichrist is going to kill them, though. But that's okay. They're going to kill him. But they're both going to be raised. God will raise one, and Satan will raise the other. Satan will raise the Antichrist. God will raise the two witnesses. And then they're going to go to heaven. That bug off my shoulder. Okay. Smile, because we're actually in good times. Nobody in the course of history has been in a place like we are now. We're going to see God soon. That ought to make you happy. God bless. Okay, I'm going to try a fix that I found online. A subscriber by the name of Kathy suggested this, so I went on and looked at a couple of videos, and I'm going to try this. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't even know if I can do this holding the camera, but I'm going to try. Well, it is fully zipped up with no clamps. Now, I worry that it's probably not a permanent fix because this is plastic, but it does work. I probably need some bigger pliers because all I had was my multi-tool, and everybody should have a multi-tool if you're camping. But it is sealed all the way around. Thank you very much.